Hi, welcome to the Coastal Virginia Chamber of Commerce, our civic engagement platform. Another exciting one, and we got a great guest, as we like to think all of them are. I'm your host, JP Godsey, a director there at the Chamber under the leadership of Ron Villanueva, our executive director, and of course our chairman, Gary C. Byler, based there out of Virginia Beach. Our guest tonight is Ed Brown. He's a candidate and a longtime friend, I'd forgotten, from Portsmouth that wants to be your next city councilman there in Portsmouth. Mr. Brown, welcome.
JP, good morning, sir. How are you? It's been a long time.
It has been, but it won't be. I will go over and meet up at Roger Brown's there on High Street and have some wings and maybe a cold one.
Yes, Roger Brown is definitely a jewel in Portsmouth.
He's fantastic. I love him. First, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to be the next city councilman.
All right, folks. Again, my name is Ed Brown. I am a native of Portsmouth. I've spent most of my life in Portsmouth. I'm running for city council because I love Portsmouth and everyone in it. My background is I've spent 22 years in education, 13 of which have been as a public school teacher in Portsmouth. I taught at Churchland Middle School for 8 years and 5 years at I.C. Norcom High School. I've also been involved in various community, political, and civic activities. I helped put together a restoration of rights clinic for individuals who were formerly incarcerated. I served as chairman of the Parks and Recreation Commission. I've also served on the Museum and Fine Arts Commission. So I'm very proud of my history of public service to Portsmouth. I have a beautiful child. She is a student of Portsmouth Public Schools, and she'll be 13 in 2 months. I'm going to have a teenager.
I think you were taking her to a dance thing or something, did you say, or to school or do something? What?
Yeah, she was in dance school. She danced, plays the piano, she writes songs, plays the one of those, the violin and the clarinet. Very,
Woo! That's talent. That's talent. I don't want to forget this. We're going to jump into the COVID situation because that's obviously the hot topic on everybody's mind. One of the big issues with our chamber is civil discourse. You and I and everyone knows the political rhetoric has never been worse as far as the attacks. And we long for the days of the Nixie-Kennedy debate where they actually talked about the issues versus that travesty that we saw in the presidential debate, as well as the constant name calling, etc. Do you pledge to do that? And has it been pretty civil so far?
Oh, yes. First of all, I pledge to engage in civil discourse for the direction of the campaign, as well as my service on the city council. And there has not been a lot of that in Portsmouth other than the destruction of Tony Goodwin's signs. Other than that, it's been fairly civil here in Portsmouth.
Good. That's wonderful to hear. Obviously, COVID's been devastating here in Hampton Roads, our nation, and across the world. What is Portsmouth doing specifically, or would you suggest they do to help the small businesses? Because we're all about that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Quite frankly, I'm not familiar too much with any assistance programs the city of Portsmouth is offering to any small businesses. I am aware of the fact that the city received funding from the federal government to assist essential workers, which is absolutely necessary. In terms of what I suggest to assist with small businesses, I would suggest a temporary, at least, reduction in the tax that they have to pay to the city. That could very well help them with the drop in service that they've been getting.
Because of the COVID virus, there's going to be budget shortfalls. That's just a fact of life. When you have so many places that were shut down, some still are. I'm assuming, and I'm not positive, but Portsmouth, like Virginia Beach, has to balance their budget every year. How are you going to deal with these budget shortfalls? It's got to be tax increases or cutting programs, one or the other.
Right. The tax increases are not feasible in Portsmouth. Not that I have a fundamental problem with tax increases, but given our unique situation in comparison to the other cities in Hampton Roads, a tax increase would not even be feasible. So you're right, you would have to have some budget cuts. We would have to have some cuts to possibly our law enforcement department, possibly to our school budget, and some of the other departments or issues which are even dear to my heart. That's the only route we could take.
Gotcha. When businesses choose to locate in any city, if you and I were opening up Ed and Gus's ice cream factory, we want to look at a busy that's pro-business and has low taxes, etc. Where do you think Portsmouth comes into that? Why would a business want to locate in Portsmouth?
Well, I think a business would want to locate in Portsmouth because there's a profit to be made. Businesses are in businesses to make a profit. There are people in Portsmouth who like to spend money, and it will be a good opportunity for any business to come here. In terms of the city government and as to whether or not they would be hospitable to that business, right now, unfortunately, that's a hard sell. We seem to have a very slack, initiative and bring businesses into the city. Primarily, the problem is with our permits department on the 4th floor in City Hall. They have a history of taking a long time and backlogging and improving permits. A quick story, a lawyer friend of mine represented a business which wanted to establish itself in Portsmouth. They were trying to get a permit approved. It took them 7 years. That is insane. Yeah, that's what's going on in Portsmouth. That's a primary reason for the very slack economic development in this city. So we need to streamline that. If someone needs to get fired, then they just need to get fired because the economic health of our city is at stake.
There's got to be some stability over there. And I love Portsmouth. I think it's just a great town. And as I said, Roger Brown's a good friend. But there's just leadership instability. The resignation of the city manager, the firing of the city auditor, an attorney are just some examples.
Right.
Then there's this conflict with the police chief and those lawsuits going on with Senator Lucas. How in the world can everybody just come together for the common good?
Right. Well, those problems have been fairly recent. Our history of economic stagnation goes back a lot further than that. But in terms of what could be done with these current problems, clearly we need new leadership and on the city council and the city manager's office, and quite frankly, in the police department. If we have individuals who are focused more so on actually providing great services for the people of this city and solving many of the problems, which gives us the image problem, I think we would go a long way.
Tourism is a big part of the Hampton Roads in general. Your thoughts on that and in promoting tourism, which bring in vital revenue for the city?
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, there isn't much in Portsmouth to tour. We have a few things. The Children's Museum. I think the casino would be a good start. There are some other. Let's
talk about that. Yeah, talk about that. That's obviously a real hot topic. I was bringing it up, but you just mentioned it. Are you support it? Do the citizens support it? Where would it be located?
I do indeed support the casino. As I have found, many of our citizens support the casino. I think it would pass the referendum, and it would be located between Victory Boulevard and McLean Street in Portsmouth, next to the TCC. But the casino would only be an anchor business. There will be other entertainment venues there. There will be restaurants, a movie theater, and some other entertainment. I think it would be a great boost for the city. Absolutely.
I just wonder how in the world can this region support two of them? I mean, if Norfolk's going to have one and Portsmouth, that seems too much for this area. Granted, in the 7 cities, we have just under 2 million people. Probably if you went up to Williamsburg, we'd have close to that. But it's got to be one or the other, or do you think we can support 2?
I think we can support 2. You'd be surprised what people do when they want to gamble. When they want to spend some money and they'll pay that toll. I don't think that toll will be a problem. If they want to spend money at the North Casino, they'll do it. If they want to spend money at the Portsmouth Casino, they'll do it. So I'm not really threatened by the thought of Norfolk having a casino.
You know, you mentioned tolls. In the last decade, City of Portsmouth and the state signed up on tolls, much to the chagrin of many people that commuted while the roads are being built up. This has hurt some businesses there in Portsmouth. What are your thoughts on that? And are you in favor of trying to get rid of them as quickly as possible?
I would love to get rid of the tolls as quickly as possible, but I don't see that happening. I don't think those tolls are going anywhere. Of course, I would be open to any idea to have them removed, but absolutely, the tolls have served as a detriment to Portsmouth businesses, especially. But I really do believe that once this casino goes up, I think a lot of people would be willing to pay that toll to come to the casino. Other than that, I think in terms of promoting economic development in Portsmouth, I think we need to focus west, the Chesapeake, Suffolk, even north, the Newport News and Hampton. I'm not going to say totally give up on Newport, Norfolk and Virginia Beach, but I think in terms of economic success, if we just focus west of Portsmouth, I think we could come out on top.
My understanding, going back to those tolls very briefly, the city council can purchase those operations back. Is my understanding. I don't know if you know anything about that, and that way you'll be able to determine your own destiny more. Do you know much about that?
That idea is floating around. One of the candidates for mayor came up with the idea of using the money from the casino to purchase, was it Elizabeth River Tunnels? I think that's what it's called. I don't think that's feasible. First of all, that business will be worth billions of dollars. We don't have billions of dollars in Portsmouth. Another thing, the revenue which comes from the casino, we have more pressing issues to invest in or to focus on using the money from the casino. Our schools, our recreational opportunities. We have terrible secondary streets. And so I don't think all of the money should go towards the tunnel from the casino.
Let's get the 10,000-pound gorilla out of the room. This lawsuit, that monument downtown, we all watched in horror with that destruction that happened down there. And then, unfortunately, the one gentleman was almost killed him. He was in the hospital for a long time, and now we have a lawsuit against several people, including one of the most prominent members of the state Senate. Mm-hmm. Your thoughts?
Well, I think had the city council done their job in the first place and had the statue removed a long time ago, we wouldn't be in this mess. Second of all, I think it's ludicrous to blame Senator Lucas for the destruction of the monument or the looting which led to it, because she wasn't even there when it happened. She made a few comments about the police standing down because it was public property. Well, first of all, she doesn't even have the authority to tell the police to stand down. So why they would listen to that, I'm baffled. So I think it's just a travesty of justice, and they're just making a mockery of our judicial system in Portsmouth.
Just a couple more issues before we wrap up, Mr. Brown. Portsmouth just made the decision that they're going to go virtual learning, not just for this rest of the year, but the entire school year, which goes to June of 2021. Obviously, that's a very unpopular decision, as the vast majority of parents want their children back in face-to-face learning. Obviously, education is a big economic driving point. Your thoughts?
Well, based on what I'm hearing in Portsmouth, going door to door, passing out literature, it was actually a popular decision. I think the vast majority of parents in Portsmouth prefer that their kids stay home. I don't know about the other areas. I think Chesapeake allowed their students to go to school, but here in Portsmouth, we're afraid of this COVID, and we're afraid of the effect that it would have on our kids. My child, as I was telling you yesterday, she's doing virtual learning, and that's what we wanted. In fact, if the school board decided that they were going to open the schools back up the next 9 weeks, we were not going to send our child back. We were going to find another virtual alternative. So I think the school board made a very good decision last night in continuing with the virtual option.
Gotcha. Anything that's on your mind as we close here that voters are telling you, or something that you're very passionate about that you want voters to know? Ed Brown's going to be your city councilman. Take it away.
Absolutely. As I'm going through Portsmouth, people are telling me that they agree with my idea of bringing a vocational school to Portsmouth. As I said, I've been teaching Portsmouth for 13 years. Just based on that experience alone, I see that we are sorely in need of a vocational school. A lot of our kids are not going to college, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they need to learn some type of trade, which would allow them to obtain a job, which would help them to be self-sufficient. Booker T. Washington was correct in that regard. So for anyone who would like to do further research on me, my website address is www.edbrown2020.com.
You're the first one that's brought that up. I think vocational education, Senator Frank Wagner from Virginia Beach told that years ago. He said these are blue collar millionaires because the jobs are out there for all those vocational jobs and they can't find people to fill them.
And they make good money. They make a lot of them help them to make more money than I do. I have 2 college degrees. I have a bachelor's. So they make.
I'm going to get over and see you in beautiful Portsmouth real soon. Thank you so much, Mr. Brown, for joining us. Thank you for our civic engagement platform, and to our executive director, Ron Villanueva, our chairman, Gary Botter, and my main man, Max. He's our technical director. We'll see you next time here on the Coastal Virginia Chamber of Commerce.